Welcome to Healing the Spirit, a space where we awaken our creativity, deepen our connections, and remember who we are through the lens of astrology, archetypes, and art making. I'm your host, Jonathan Coe. Hello everyone, welcome to Healing the Spirit. In this episode, I want to share some thoughts that came through as I was sitting in deep presence around the idea of proving our worth. This is a pattern and a topic I continually return to over the years, partially because I continue to discover deeper and deeper layers of this topic. One of the first episodes I ever recorded for the podcast was literally called Remembering Your Inherent Worth. And recently, in conversations with students, with clients, and with friends, I've been noticing that this question is reappearing in the collective. In some ways, it makes a lot of sense. I'm recording this on the second day, I believe, of Taurus season in 2025. We just had a very eventful Aries season. Neptune moved into Aries after having been in Pisces for ever. We had a couple planets, Venus and Mercury, finally getting out of retrograde. Mars moved out of retrograde, out of Cancer into Leo. And so there's momentum in the air. And along with momentum, what I'm also noticing is there's a little bit of pressure internally to figure out, what am I supposed to do with my time? How can I best use this energy? These are questions I grapple with myself too. And I think they're important questions to ask. And at the same time, I had this interesting experience where when I hear clients coming to me in sessions or friends asking me about this, asking me, what do you think? What should I focus on? I'm hearing this silent music happening underneath, which is this quest of, am I worthy enough? Can I pick a project so that I can finally liberate myself from the fear that I am not good enough? From this constant hamster wheel of trying to prove myself. So I invite all of us to deepen into a contemplative and meditative state, to connect with our bodies, and to begin this exploration of more deeply understanding what's going on here. How might we be with this deeper question of our worth? Notice your breath. Notice the ways that your breath is moving in and out. And as long as you're alive, there's no denying that your breath just automatically move by itself. Your whole body is intelligent. Your whole body is a beautiful, intricate, powerful machine. There's nothing you can do to make your breath anything other than what it is. Your breath is just a part of your humanity. Imagine yourself standing in front of an ocean, looking out into the distance, looking out into the horizon. As far as your eyes can see, there's no end to this horizon. You know it's not infinite, but as far as you can see, it is infinite. When you think about the value that you offer into the world, your value is determined by forces larger than your current experiences. The values of your actions, of your words, of your thoughts extend far beyond your existence, your awareness, your understanding, and your consciousness. When you do something, when you decide to take action, when you decide to create something that truly comes from your heart, you will never fully have access to the impact of your actions. The impact of your actions extend far beyond what you can possibly imagine. And the impact of your actions also outlive you, sometimes for generations. In a sense, if you are trying to understand the value of your creative endeavors, what you create from your own two hands, there's no way that you can ever see it. Even you can't determine. You, in your limitations, the limitations of your perspectives, the limitations of your viewpoints, the limitations of your reach, you will never fully know. Humans impact one another on a frequency level. The other day, I heard someone say that you can never really convince anyone using your words. The only way you can change people's minds is through how you make them feel. On some level, many of us have been taught to believe that we can somehow prove ourselves. We can prove ourselves by the cars we drive, the houses we're able to buy, the people that we date, how successful we are in our careers. But all of that is temporary. All of that is simply agreed upon constructs that we've created in society. And society is always changing. 200 years ago, society doesn't look the way that society looks now. In 300 years, everything will be different. In a way, the question about worth, one of the reasons why it haunts us so much is because we don't really have a say in it. Worth is sometimes confused with impact. We want to prove our worth because we want to know that we matter on an existential level, that our existence here is not a waste. First of all, of course, it's not a waste. You are here because there's something for you to do. And sometimes what you do is valued by society at large. And other times, the most impactful actions that you take happen without exchange. You may not even have been paid for it. It happened without other people knowing. There's no applause. You didn't win a Grammy. Other times you didn't even know. You didn't even know that what you did impacted someone so deeply, both in possibly positive or negative ways. In a way, it's the wrong question. Have I proven my worth is the wrong question. And yet, it is so prevalent. It is so easy for us to believe that we have to prove our worth. In the language of human design, it is said that about 70% people don't have their ego center defined. And the ego center is really where we try to prove our worth. Having an undefined ego center is, to oversimplify, to not have consistent access to your own sense of worth, your own sense of knowing precisely what matters and what doesn't matter, and what and when to quit. This is very challenging for the human mind, especially within the context of a society that really cares a lot about building things, about being remembered. The question of our worth is also related to the ephemeral nature of our existence. We don't get to live forever. That's rather unsettling for us to think that one day we won't even be here. The antidote to proving our worth is the antidote to a lot of other ills and distortions that we experience in this lifetime, being in human bodies, living human existence. The antidote is presence. When we give ourselves permission to fully be in our bodies and to bring our attention back to the present moment, this idea, this concept that somehow we are racing against time begins to dissolve and something else emerges. Something else starts to take over. In the words of Krista Tippett, we begin to tap into the geological timeline. We begin to tap into a deeper sense of what reality even is. The truth is, there is a natural order to things. There is a natural flow to everything. Everything has its intelligence. And part of what brings this question into the surface, this question of, am I worthy? Have I done enough? Am I a good enough parent? Am I a good enough employee? Am I a good enough partner? Is a result of straying away from our natural rhythm. The phenomenon of returning to our natural rhythm is not about spiritual enlightenment, at least not in the ways that many people understand that term. Returning to flow has more to do with giving our bodies, our minds, and our spirits the opportunity to collaborate, to harmonize, to synchronize with one another. In the process of that synchronizing, we begin to realize that there is an unnatural pace that has been imposed upon us. In the last few years, I've been hearing a lot about the idea of slowing down. And for a long time, I struggle with this because I am so eternally impatient. I know this about myself. And it's been really challenging to allow myself to slow down. It goes against the mindset that I've been taught since I was little, which was hurry, hurry, which was efficiency above everything else, which was get your work done as quickly as possible so that you can do XYZ. And so one of the consequences was when, about a year ago, when I decided to finally learn to slow myself down, I came across so many different obstacles. The first obstacle being that the first place my mind goes to is how can I possibly slow down when I live in one of the most hectic cities in the world? I live in the middle of Brooklyn, New York City, and my area is one of those areas that are blessed with literally all the subway stations. There are maybe 3 or 4 lines that are not represented in my neighborhood. Other than that, all the other subway lines are accessible by foot, which is actually quite unusual in New York City. And as a consequence, even the energetics of this neighborhood is very transient, it's very mercurial, it's very hectic. Chaos is an everyday bread and butter in this neighborhood. I would say I live the urban hermit life for the most part, and yet it's still really challenging to slow down. And most of what makes it challenging isn't necessarily external circumstances. What makes it really challenging was really my own conceptions of what I should be doing with my time, how I should be living my life, how I should be interacting with other people. It wasn't until sometime this month that I gave myself permission to show up to the podcast, which really is my own project, in a way that feels really natural to me and my body and my pace. On the other side now, this feels wild. This feels insane, even. There was nobody judging me, there was nobody grading me for this podcast, and yet it felt really hard to go against the grain of what I perceive podcasting needs to look like in order to make an interesting show. And that's just a small facet of my life, right? That's just a small facet of my work. And yet, that conditioning is really prevalent. So, what awaits for us, for our bodies, for our lives, when we put aside this question of, are you worthy? Are you worthy? What if we give ourselves permission to lift that question as if it were a bundle of goods wrapped up in a little blanket. And what if we just put it to the side? We say thank you for existing. This is an interesting mental cotton candy. But I will just focus on my path. I will give myself permission to move forward as feels right for my body, for my mind, and for my spirit. I suspect that this is one of those questions that is actually a black hole. I don't think that anybody has the answer to it. Prior to recording this, I actually pulled a few cards. I pulled a few tarot cards just to see what might potentially come up. And I pulled cards from this deck called Pagan Otherworlds. And this is an interesting deck because it also includes some lunar phases, some cards that represent the lunar phases. And the card that I pulled was actually the new moon. When we think about the symbology of the new moon is about the void. During new moons, you actually can't see the moon. If you go outside and you try to find the moon, you won't be able to find it in the sky. And that's what this pattern of trying to prove our worth feels like to me. It's a pattern that a lot of us get really twisted around. We believe we need to make a certain amount of money, we need to achieve a certain social status, we need to be partnered by a certain age. And even for those of us who already live outside of many trappings, many arbitrary social standards that have been placed upon us, again, it comes up in really creative, fascinating ways. I noticed for myself, there was a story that if I didn't send this many email to my list within a month, then nobody will want to buy my services. Or if I don't make a certain number of social media posts or record a certain number of episodes, then people will forget about me. I think it's kind of funny, actually, because on the other side of it, not that I'm fully healed from it, but on the other side of giving myself permission to have that question, to be a little bit afraid of the repercussions of not answering that question, not tending to those fears, meaning not actually trying to fix it, right? Based on what it's saying to me. What I'm seeing is there really wasn't a lot of weight behind that question. It's one of those messy, knotted pattern that actually, upon closer inspection, you will see that there's nothing in the middle of it. It's like just this empty void. It's making me think of a concept that one of my teachers, Leah Garza, talks a lot about, which is the concept of unmet needs. The other day, I found myself sharing a theory with a client of mine, which is that every form of success that we efforted ourselves into, on some level, is a way for us to overcompensate for the ways that we didn't get what we needed from at least one of our primary caretakers, if not both. I was a little surprised when this came out of my mouth spontaneously. It felt edgy, and I think there's some truth to that. No matter how skilled, how loving, how amazing our caretakers are, the authorities in our lives growing up were. As little kids, we inevitably didn't get certain aspects of our needs met. That is simply the reality of being alive. Especially before you were able to communicate in ways where adults can understand your needs. So I'm not sure if proving our worth is something that actually really has a function. This is a question I'm currently grappling with. Is there a function to trying to prove ourselves? Certainly, many human inventions have been built upon this, right? How many people became CEOs or famous, acclaimed artists or great leaders in the political stage, driven by unmet needs that they never tended to? So perhaps there is value that we are giving to society. But I suspect that if you listen to this episode, you're tired of living in a way where you're always questioning your own worth. In the quiet pause, I invite you here to really connect with yourself. Really connect with your bones, with your breath, with the blood circulating in your body. Noticing the muscles in your face, in your back, and maybe giving them a chance to relax a little. And as you feel your body relaxing a little bit, start to hold this question of, where am I trying to prove my worth in my life? Is there a way that I somehow have slipped into forgetting my own creative power, my own infinite nature? And now I feel I must push that boulder up the hill. Where am I working a little too hard? Where can I ease a little bit of my forcefulness, a little bit of my effort? Are there areas in my life where I can just turn around, walk away, say goodbye? And it doesn't even have to be a fanfare. It doesn't have to be a giant, dramatic, theatrical production. Maybe all I need to do is just to trust myself. Yeah, it's funny, right? One of these, this is to me one of the big existential questions that many of us grapple with. What is the point of my existence? What is the point of me being alive? Where should I direct my energy, my time, my resources into? And my guess is that this is a question to live into. These questions, perhaps they don't really have answers. At least they can't be reverse engineered. Perhaps these are the questions that needed to be held, and as we hold them, we allow them to start moving us. Certain questions are meant to be asked before we embark on an adventure, and certain other questions are meant to be continually posed as we walk in our lives, as we walk our path, as we walk and swim in the river of time. Perhaps this question of what is worthy of my time, what is worthy of my energy and my efforts, perhaps this question is a companion. Perhaps this question isn't meant to be asked before we embark on something. Perhaps we're supposed to hold it lightly, bring it in our backpack. That feels complete to me. Thank you for listening. I hope that this episode has been helpful for you. I hope that it feels nourishing on some level. And I look forward to the next time that we see one another again. Sending you lots of love, and I hope you take good care of yourselves.